it's me, Lala, for LalaTV for IWFCIM. I am here today in my super messy room. As you can see, this is annoying me, but like everyone working remotely, our office rooms are never entirely clean, at least mine. Anyways, it's November. I hope everyone's having a very amazing, fruitful November. 1 month away from the most anticipated month of the year. But before we head on to December, we actually have Wendy Pang in this month's session. And the thing about Wendy, she is a health and wellness practitioner, and she's going to be talking a little bit more about mental health and understanding oneself in not your typical form, to be exact. So basically, she will talk a little bit more on hypnotherapy. And if you're like me, I'm forever curious about all things hypnotherapy. Well, basically, because we've been probably exposed to it ever since we were young, as the guy who's holding a clock trying to make someone sleep. Either ways, the conversation with Wendy has been amazing, and I do hope you guys enjoyed this session. And hopefully, all right, hey everybody, and we are back for another Lala TV with IWFCIM. And today's topic is something really interesting. I honestly have never encountered somebody in this field. I've heard of it, but I've never really talked to a person that does it actively. So today we have Wendy Pang, and she is a life health wellness coach and practitioner, and her story is really interesting, so I'm actually going to be sharing her with everybody today and basically explaining what she does and the many different things that she's gone through over the years. So I'm just going to invite her in. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Lala. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I just want to know, before we kick things off, because before going to the topic of where your expertise lies, perhaps you could share a little bit about yourself and how's life been so far.
Sure. So about me, I have been a mental health practitioner for quite some time. So technically, it's about 3 years. I'm a profession as a finance person that's working in the finance industries. So I have my own passion in psychology. So due to that, I enroll myself into a degree in psychology. And then further on, I enhance and then I further my studies into a hypnotherapy. So from there, I got a certified as a hypnotist, where I help people to really look into what they want to help to improve themselves from the mental health perspective.
There you go. The magical word came out, which is hypnotherapist. And I'm so interested in to know what that is about, because I'm sure even in media, whether it's TV or whether it's movies, hypnotherapy has been with us for a very long time. I remember as a child, I think it was Home Alone or somewhere, you have like this string where they kind of like, hypnotize you to do things or to fall asleep and things like that. But let's bring it down a little bit to this generation, right? How has your career evolved, especially I believe during the lockdown, after the lockdown, people went through a lot of things. Everyone personally had to dig deep, be positive, stay positive. But how has that been for you career-wise in terms of, was it an increase of people actually looking out for this type of therapy and for your advice in how to manage their stress or everyday life?
Okay, that's a very good question. So during MCO, a lot of people realize that the importance of mental health, especially they are being quarantined and they are being set alone in one entity where they can't interact with people. So from there on, I got a lot of people that start inquiry and then they come to me and they talk to me. So last time, we all thought that when we say about, hey, you're looking for a psychologist or any kind of mental health therapies, you have issue. So I always tell people, hey, it's okay to be not okay. You don't have issue. It's just that our inner self, we always say that our brain are divided into two areas, conscious and subconscious. Conscious is something that you know what you're doing right now. You have your own goal. But subconscious is the one that drive you to do whatever that you need to do deep inside you, which hold your own belief. because sometimes your conscious mind is so clear that it pushes away your subconscious mind. That is why your inner self is seeking help. And that is why people sometimes think that I feel like I'm doing something that I think I enjoy it, but something is missing. So a lot of people asking me, I always feel something is missing. So let us find out what is that something. So that is why hypnotherapists will allow you and help individuals to tap into their subconscious mind. Because when our brain waves are in the theta level, we are so relaxed that our conscious mind are actually coming down. And then our subconscious mind are actually taking control of our brain. And that is how hypnotherapists will help you to talk to your subconscious mind and understand what is the drive or what is blocking you in your deep inner self.
That's an interesting thing, right? Because as humans, we tend to be very calculative of the real world. Take calculated risks, do your research and everything else. But at the same time, we grow up thinking like our mothers, at least my mom, follow your gut instinct. So, those two are really hard to balance it out. So, how do you actually tell people to do that? Because sometimes everything is very scientific and you can calculate things, you can see things. But your gut instinct, it's like, this job or this task, there's something that I feel that it's not doable or it can be done. So, what do you do in that kind of situation?
Okay, I practice power of affirmation, or we call it the law of attraction, because it is true. Because you always ask for something from the universe, and the universe is listening to it, and they will give it to you something. That's why sometimes we call it gut feelings. You have that gut feelings, but you don't know whether you trust it or not. So some people are like, okay, I'm more realistic, so I'll go to the realistic world. But try, for me, is every morning. Morning is the best time when you just wake up, sit still, and give yourself a power of affirmation. What you want. That's the power of it. A lot of people are thinking that, okay, power of affirmation is easy. It is easy, but get the correct technique. People always ask for things that they do not want. Example, I don't want to be sad. The key word that the universe heard is sad.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's the sad and the don't as well. So when every day you affirm yourself, I don't want to be sad, I don't want to be sad, the universe is capturing sad and sad. That's how you feel like, I wake up and like, why is my life so sad? Like, so many things is going on. It's a lot of negativity coming in. But change to your mindset or change your affirmation to, I want happiness. Be more specific. I want to complete 3 tasks today in my work. With that affirmation, you are actually self-affirm yourself. Preset your mind on what you want to do daily. And that will help your mind subconsciously, and they will go and do it because it's already set. So by the end of the day, when you feel like, I already like 3 things is not done, something is not right, I have to do it. So you have the urge to complete things. So that is the power of affirmation.
I like that because we tend to be very hard on ourselves, in the daily life. Whether it's, even if you have a good day, you're like, I can do better. And it kind of, it's a pros and cons. We hear things, we read about things, and like, it's never enough. We are kind of programmed to, if you reach a certain level, you got to work better, you got to work harder to get to the next step. And it's always, like you said, it gets harder. I don't want to do this, but I want to get that. So it becomes like a two-way confusion, right? So in your opinion, like when it comes to these types of scenarios where you are happy but motivation runs dry, because like for everybody, we kind of work for the end of the year. I want to get a bonus, I want to get a raise. But once you get there, you're like, okay, that's it. What's next? And you tend to either realign, or for some people get burned out. So how do you cope with that, to maintain that motivation, to maintain that sense of, determination to still proceed and do better?
I like that question because I encountered this issue before. So
Okay.
when I was young, I was like, my dream is to go overseas to studies. And I got it via scholarship. And then when I come back, what's next? I'm kind of like lost. And then I kind of like go with the flow. But I don't know what I really want. It feels like my life purpose has been achieved going out abroad to study. Then there's nothing else.
Yeah.
So when I go through, I start to understand that if I lost something, that I keep on searching of my life purpose, I did not enjoy what I have done all this while. So when I reflect back, when I go through one of the sessions to reflect back every year what I've been gone through, that I feel so grateful. I've organized so many events, fundraising events, charity, which give a significant events that help and change people's life, make a difference to someone else. A little things that you did, it makes a difference. So I start to appreciate things that I do. When I start to appreciate things that I do and I honor it, acknowledge myself, and it subconsciously, I have bigger passion, I have bigger motivation. And that is how motivation comes to you. Because you are contented, you are grateful, you acknowledge your hard work. The keyword is you must acknowledge yourself. If you never acknowledge even a single thing, who else will acknowledge you?
That's beautiful. That's nicely said. Yeah, that's really nicely said. Really, really wonderful. Yeah. I feel like the acknowledgement part is a part where you're accountable and present. I think a lot of the times when you're in a busy situation, you don't give yourself that credit. You either wait for someone, like you said, you either wait for someone to say you did good or you're performing really well, but rarely are we brought up to pat yourself on the back, like you survived this week, or even a small milestone, you started a business. And I think that is just how the current world is built on, because we have so much social media where people compare each other, different successes and things like that. So, keeping that motivation in mind, what do you see as a key indicator of something that can affect one's motivation? Meaning, this is something you should avoid. We do know that, you try not to say too many negative things and try to be very specific, but I'm sure it's more than just that. Is there anything else in the real world that we face that we should kind of, do less of in order for us to be present and available to the whole universe in a sense?
Okay, you say something that about social media. Of course, when we go through our social media, it's like it's our nature. We will start comparing. Oh, he's doing so well. Oh, he's going overseas again. So technically, you will feel jealous. I will feel jealous. And for me, that kind of feelings is kind of like, I'm not happy. I'm not happy that I have that kind of mindset that I'm jealous towards my friend's achievement because I don't have something that you have. So that is a reality that people don't try to be like cover it up. No one is perfect. Yeah. So from that perspective, I do acknowledge as well. When you have this kind of negativity, don't ever push it away. Appreciate it. Understand that what you really want. I always ask myself, do I really enjoy going out overseas, or what I really want out from it? So from the moment I look at it is, for myself, I really want to go overseas, to have a travel and so on. But when I can or not, I have a choice, I can't, but I make a decision, a choice of I didn't want to go. I want to do it, save the money for other things. And that is why I acknowledge myself. Yes, I choose something greater. I enjoy it, but I can enjoy the view and the happiness of my friend. So I put it a bigger weight of something that I want to achieve higher than my envy or of sadness looking that I'm not able to go out, but I give
Yep.
myself some credit to go and enjoy something else.
Mm. I think that's a nice way to put it. Regardless of whether it is material envy or even someone's social envy, someone got a kid, someone got anything, it's bound to sneak in on us, especially when it's so casually shown, right?
Yes.
Um, Again, is does that really correlate with motivation? Because there are some people who actually use that as a way of, okay, this guy got it, I'm gonna work hard to get for it. Would you say that it is like a double-edged sword? Like there are times that seeing this actually motivates somebody, and then sometimes for a different scenario, it doesn't motivate someone.
Yes. So that's why it always back to you on which motivation suits you more. So
Yep.
everyone's motivation, the drive is different. So that's why I always go through a deeper level session with my client where I search for their belief, their deep values inside. Their number one values. What is their values? If they are looking for recognition, then I'll encourage them to use this method for comparing, because they want that recognition, and then when they go out, then they start posting out, they feel happy, and that is their drive. Then I'll say go ahead. If their number one values is not recognition but it's a family or something else, a lesser or more bound values, not competitive values, I'll ask them to divert, to change on their motivation direction.
Okay. So everyone is basically an individual in this scenario, right? For sure.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people we do have some young viewers who probably would like to venture into something very different. And this seems to be like a perfect fit for a lot of people who like psychology, who understand that they are people person, because you seem like a very people person and you have to really touch deep into someone's personal emotions when you come here. So maybe you could share a little bit on the areas of expertise that you currently do and what differentiates that with normal therapy, to say.
Okay, for me, I do a lot of values searching, because I believe, because me myself, I'm a very hardcore believer of subconscious mind and the motivation drive based on the value deep inside. So whenever I start on any session, I always search through understand yourself, not your outer side, but your inner side. What drives you? Either in your relationship, in your family, in your work, in any kind of things, I can able to identify top 5 values. And using that top 5 values, I'm able to help you to change the way that you think, that modify, and then I also able to help you to take out certain of the values that is so hidden deep inside that you didn't even realize, and switch it with another top, maybe the top 5, the top 6 or what, and change it up and rank it accordingly, so that you will feel comfortable with yourself. So my way of therapy is search values and ranking them from the 1 to 5, and drives you towards on what you want to achieve in your life, and not just go by like what is very general, but go by years, 5 years, what you want to do, and how do you feel about it when your this deep feeling change. So how I do it is using a hypnotherapy where I deep through into your subconscious mind and bring out that values out so that you are aware. So when people say hypnotherapist, am I, when you're hypnotized with it, am I like losing control? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I think everyone's first thought is that it's like, oh no, she's gonna know my darkest secrets, she's gonna blackmail me or something. She knows like my worst memories in life, right? So that, I think everyone would think that's what it means, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people will be asking me, will you like hypnotize me until I forget everything or anything? Technically, no. Technically, the short answer is you are actually in control. You know what you're doing. So when you're in the session, in the hypnotherapy session, I ask you to stand with your hand. You straight away open your eye and tell me, how can I stand up with my hand?
Okay. But
So technically, you
aware,
are
right?
aware. You
Okay.
are aware. It's just that you are so relaxed in the mood
Hmm.
of your mind. The brainwave is so relaxed. It's the idea of before you go to sleep. It's like that
Okay.
sleepiness. That's why
Okay.
sometimes when you're in a relationship and then your husband is talking, or normally the husband always get it because the wife will be talking. Yeah, 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 yeah. So actually, they understand. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yep,
So
yep, yeah.
that
It's like the midpoint of like awake and subconsciously going somewhere else in your mind, right?
yes, correct.
Okay. I keep on thinking that, I'm not sure. I think the viewers might give me other feedback on what they thought. But my memory of that is like a guy that was holding this thing that goes left and right, and the guy is like, "Oh, I'll put you to sleep," and that happens. But this is something that people should know about, because as we grow older, there are a lot of times where, like you mentioned, right, there are things that are in our memories we don't even know is a big deal. It's just there. It's just we haven't acknowledged that memory, and we kind of bring it forward. We do more things to forget about that. And in one of your programs, is actually called neuro linguistic programming, which
Mm.
I thought was quite interesting, because it says here that it uses language of the mind to bring out specific and desired outcomes. What does that mean? Is that the affirmation part of it, or how does that work?
That is part of the affirmation. That is
Okay.
how you program the language every morning when you wake up. What kind of language that you are going
Mhm.
to tell yourself to preset in your mind? Because when you are conscious, you know what is going on. You set your own goal.
Yeah.
But what we want to achieve is to use neuro linguistic, the mind using the subconscious dragging get the information to tell the universe what you want, and subconsciously bringing all the opportunities to you.
Okay. So, do you feel that what you provide, because for me, it feels like a very personal one on one thing, but do companies actually approach you to help with their teams to manage their day to day? Because for me, it's something in Malaysia, okay, every time someone goes into a corporate company, it's like, oh yeah, we cover medical, right? But the mental medical is a new thing. Majority of the time, it's either very taboo, or someone said, I don't have a mental illness, which essentially I beg to differ. I don't think everyone is sane. It's just that we choose to kind of say that I'm normal, I'm a functioning human being. But for you, I mean, do you do that kind of thing where you evaluate teams of how they work together, or emotional parts of a group setting?
I'm more into emotional part. So
Mhm.
when I go to a corporate level, I will assess on EQ level. EQ on training on the staff, employees on how for them to empathize, using their EQ skills to understand other people, and then how to react to people's feelings. Because I feel that when you are in a working environment and you are interacting with people, human being, you need to be trained in your EQ level. EQ being empathize with people, understand people from a different level, so that you are able to communicate and connect to them properly. Instead of certain people like, hey, I don't like people that is micromanaged. But why are you micromanaged? How
Yeah.
to handle a micromanage people? So
Yeah.
that is your EQ, the power of your EQ.
Very, very thoughtful on that part, because we're in a very interesting generation. We have those who are in leadership statuses that are mostly either Gen Z, or the higher, the older one. Sorry, Gen Z is the younger one, right? Yeah, I always get
Yes.
confused with this generational thing. So, anyways, for me, I noticed that the style of working is very different. When I first joined the workforce, it's like you can't say no. There's no way that you're going to say no to your boss. Your boss says you're going to work until 8:30 or 10 p.m., and that is how it's going to be, and no one actually dares say anything. And it was like that for a very long time. Slowly, people started to change as the term work-life balance comes in and so on. But nowadays we have youths that are coming into the workforce who are very bright and very talented, and they're very, I guess this is the byproduct of the generation before them that wanted them to be more vocal, and it shows. But at the same time, when it comes to the EQ side of managing them, there's so many articles about this, right? They are pampered, they can't do work, and I don't believe that, because I think it's just a communication thing. So when it comes to breaking those boundaries of mentally changing your perspective, because I think this is a big part of the problem that we see in corporate, at least, is we've been doing something for so long. Why are we changing now? Right? So how do you do that? How do you get comfortable in order for you to change your work style? Because when I had to go into fully remote, that was really mind boggling. I thought, like, yeah, I got internet, I got this, I got that. I don't need to see my colleagues. But then I had to take, like you said, like a words of affirmation where you have to sit down and say, like, it's okay. I got this, even though the person on the other side hasn't really replied me and I can't talk to them. But I have to manage this. So when it comes to leadership positions, how do you do that? How do you, because this is not a personal thing really, it's a work thing. But we spend most of our lives in work. So what would you recommend or tell a person facing this change of work styles to do?
So, well, this is a very interesting question because this affects a lot of people.
It sure does.
As the generation goes and how we evolve, we have to have a mindset of accept change. Last time, when they are baby boomers, their era, they don't even have internet. They don't even know what is internet.
True.
And as the era goes on and goes on, people are just evolving. So for me, I'll tell people that it is a part of growing, evolving. Yes, we are now more into in your own confined center. You don't really meet people a lot because of right now, it's communications, you can just go internet and so on. But do encourage to go out to connect with people, because what makes you human is your ability to communicate and interact. Although yes, you have to work alone in a fully remote, but I always encourage company, don't fully go into a remote, but try to do a co-location sometimes, because co-location can help your employees to build trust, to build that teamwork, because that teamwork is important for the success of a business. So yes, you can go remote, but at a certain level. We always say work-life balance. You also need to have a balance between fully remote and being in the office. That's why hybrid.
True.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think in terms of all of those things that we go through, it's always the type where we are adaptable. We're adaptable, so because we're adaptable, we choose not to talk about things. So, like, in your experience over time, and seeing people and your clients as well, what would be a good gauge for a person to actually want to approach you for services to help them out? Because Asian country, very taboo, when it comes to this, unless you are very on a younger level, like 30 below or 40 below, you kind of think that, yeah, I should go get my emotional evaluation checked. But that being said, it's still difficult to get through that door. So is there like a gauge that you say that, oh, this person really should kind of talk to someone, see someone, because you're acting a certain way? So what would those key highlights be?
For me, I won't ask about what issues that you are facing. I always go with the approach of what do you want to achieve? What is missing in your life that you feel something that is missing? And in what areas? Because if you're able to identify that you want to achieve something, but you are feeling something is missing, For me, that is the first step
Mhm.
to a therapy because you are acknowledging something. So
Okay.
when we go for a therapy, we always go for a ranking, so like a range. I always ask the questions: how do you feel certain things? From the range 1 to 5, how do you feel right now? Then after that, when I go through the session, I will ask back the same question: how, from the rate from 1 to 5, how do you rate after the session? So that every session, you know what you have achieved. Let's say, for example, I face a lot of people that is in relationship issue.
Mm.
They always say in relationship they have a issue of trust.
Mhm.
If those that have a really deep issue in trust are asked what is lacking, what do you feel when you're in relationship, what are you looking for? Again, they always say back to trust. Then ask what is the trust that you are looking at? So that when people are very, very specific, they are able to be very specific on what they want, and then they will know whether they can find it in that person or they can create that whole environment. Because when you feel something is missing, it is not about other people to fill it up for you. It is for how you are able to fill it up for yourself. And that is how mental health practitioner will able to help you to go through that session, helping you to identify things that you feel that you are lacking, and you are able to create something for yourself instead of waiting for other people to create for you.
That is really, really deep because yeah, it's always those things where if you know that's a problem, it's easier to acknowledge. But sometimes you have to sit down and figure out what exactly do you want because it's not like it's really not a grocery list of things. You know, like 5 years ago, you may want something else in your life. Like 10 years ago, I would have been like, I want to be in corporate for the rest of my life, and I'll live here and stay here and retire here. But then it changes because the world changes, mindset changes, your social surrounding changes. And essentially, I see that's what you are aiming for is basically to affirm what you want actively and be aware of it instead of tumbling down through your life like a rolling stone kind of thing and just like, okay, adapt, adapt, adapt. But then are you really enjoying the journey? Because we always kind of ala tak apalah, I'll think about it. I'll have a holiday. I'll come back energized, and then it's always skipping that part where you mentioned affirmation, understanding what you need, and really digging deep in what really are you feeling in terms of emotion. A lot of the times we put a mask on. I would say personally, because I deal with community. If I have a bad day, it's like, no way are you gonna know I have a bad day. I would never let my community know like, oh, I'm having such a horrible day. It's always, hi, how can I help you today? Yes, and it becomes difficult. But I do have someone that I talk to. I'm one of the luckier ones who have support in the sense that my HR team has always been
Mm.
adaptive because we are remote working, that psychology is part of medical things that we should look into, so it's been great for that part of it. And I'm really curious about hypnotherapy. um what do you go through, like what do I need personally to go through before taking that step? Because I'm guessing hypnotherapy, this is just from my judging what I see and everything, is it's definitely something that I either want to tap into or I want to forget or I want to kind of move forward from, that I'm having difficulty doing on my own. And how does it feel like, or what do I have to be prepared for?
Oh yeah, you mean what you have to prepare for during the session or during the session?
Yes, super interested in that
Okay, for during the session is normally you are having, because you are trained hypnotherapists.
one.
So when we are talking, when we are in a session, technically our voice will change because
Okay.
we are actually using our voice to help you to become relaxed. So when you come to the whole session, first you will need to fully relax. Choose a spot that you feel you're comfortable with. Even if you're going for an online session, choose a spot that you feel comfortable with. And then the hypnotherapist will go through you the induction. The induction session is where we will start to induce you into a deeper leveling, we call it a deepening level, so that you will feel very, very relaxed, going through the sound of the therapies and imagine things. Because the deepening level, what we do is inducing is to creating a scenario that you personally like. If you're a person that you like go a jungle, then I'll try to create a scenario on a jungle situation where you fully adapt to that environment. And from there on, I will start questioning on what do you see, because what you see at that level will tell me what do you feel. Either you feel relaxed or you see something that have been stopping you so far, your inner child or anyone. And during the session, sometimes you might burst out. Burst out meaning that you will cry, or you will let go, or you will feel angry about something. So through that sessions, the hypnotherapist will help you to go through all your emotional luggage inside, so that it can all come out and relax. And then from there on, we will put in a suggestion that will help you to bring your unconscious mind level up on what you want to do, on what you really want. So that's why every session we always ask you on a specific things on what you want. And during that whole session, you will eventually tell me what you deeply inside you that you want it. And I will help you to bring the deeper inside what you really want out into your conscious mind. And then I'll slow you, bringing you out.
That sounds very different than what we always grow up with, which is a good thing. Which is a very good thing. Yeah, because it's scary, because I always wonder. I'm not sure. Maybe, who knows, in the near future I might actually want to go for it. But because I built so many walls, even when I went for like a therapist session, right? A lot of the times, the first few times, you kind of, am I really telling the truth, or am I telling something that I have been telling for the past 5 years? Like, I had a session where I think my therapist was just kind of like, are you saying this because this sounds like the correct thing to say, or you're concerned that I might judge you if you say it? I'm like, that's a good question. I never, you don't take a step back. And I think people, and hopefully those who are watching this segment as well, need to understand that in a psychotherapy session, or even in a like therapy session, any type of therapy session, whether it's a emotional one or even a physical one, you kind of need to really take a step back and relax. And you got to be honest. If you're not honest, I notice that it takes a long time to really figure out what's the biggest problem. So yeah, it's interesting, because I've talked to therapists a few times, but I've never had this kind of like, words of affirmation. My therapist just kind of like listens to me and it's just like, okay, just tell me, how was your week? How did you enjoy working with your team? It's just like, okay, you kind of let it out. But it's not so much as they would give me that kind of, you should consider how you wake up in the morning or what you say in the morning. And we skip that. I think if you're a working woman, especially even those with kids, I have cousins who just are out the door in half an hour. Get the kid ready, get breakfast. I don't even know whether they even understand the motion. And I think these kind of areas of expertise are really needed in this new generation, because of the fact it's so high paced, so fast paced. And okay, before we end our session, I just want to give you the floor and maybe just tell us everything that you want people to know about what you do, or any advice for business people who are going through anything that requires a little bit more than just coaching for business, but more to a personal standpoint.
Okay, for me, I will be starting out my whole program coming out on the next year on series of mental wellness series, where it helped people, working people, or any people, anyone actually, to help to build up on their EQ level, on what they want, what is the power of affirmation, how they can use the NLP techniques and some of the hypnotherapy that can help them to evaluate and also enhance their mental well-being, such as their stress, what is their triggering on their stress, and how to monitor their stress, and how to affirm themselves from the stress level. And then from the financial side, how can they choose a different way of method to reaffirm their mind. So I'm coming up with a 3 series that I hope that people able to use the skills to upgrade themselves and also to help themselves on their own mental wellness instead of relying on other people. That always remember that you yourself, you have the power to change your own future, your own mindset, and your own future. And that is what I'm going to share it with my participants in the future in next year program. And that is the highlight on my session. Other than giving a private one-to-one session coaching, I also teach you on the skills level that can help you in your mental health.
There we go. So that, guys, you should plan for your 2023 because it's been definitely a roller coaster for 2022. A lot of people, I'm sure, have gone through ups and downs, and there's no harm in understanding oneself. I think it's always uncomfortable to talk about ourselves with other people, but Wendy has mentioned that these kind of things, it's a process. And it's a process that we should all kind of learn and affirm of our existence and what we are doing on our day-to-day life. So thank you again, Wendy, for being on this show. It was really interesting, and it was a topic that I was really itching to cover because it's not usually talked about enough. I really wish people understood that mental health is actually a medical importance, because I have juniors, right? I have like my Gen Z juniors who will always come up to me and say, dude, I need a mental health break. I'm like, okay. And you know, being someone who has never had that kind of guts to tell that to my seniors back then, I understand it now a little bit better. It's not so much as you need a timeout because you want to do stuff. It's more of I need a timeout to zone out, to kind of understand, to recalibrate, and it's really important for that. So thank you so much, Wendy, for talking to me today. And for everyone else, stay tuned for December session because we have a special guest in December, and hopefully somebody may or may not be sharing more details of what they do, or maybe what's happening for IWFCIM in 2023. But either ways, make sure to follow us, and we are more than happy to answer any questions online or offline. And thank you again, Wendy.
Thank you, Lala, for having
Bye.
me.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.